Hi, welcome at Kipster. My name is Ruud Zanders and I'm one of the founders and one of the owners from Kipster.
Hi, my name is Vera Bavinck. I'm a poultry veterinarian and I work for Kipster.
In the coming 40 minutes we are going to explain everything about Kipster, what are we doing and why are we doing the things what we are doing.
And I will actually take you inside the house, between the chickens, and show you how we practice what we preach.
So let's go. Yeah, as said, I'm going to explain you what Kipster is doing and why are we doing the things what we are doing. This is my mother on the right side of this picture. Now she's 83 years old right now, but here she was about 6 years old. And my mother grew up on a very small scale farm. So my grandparents on that side, they had a few land, a few cows, a few pigs, a few chickens. And my mother is always saying that after World War II they didn't have enough money to buy food for their own family. So what they were doing, they were using their own farm as good as possible to produce plant-based food for their own. And my mother is always saying, and then you cannot imagine anymore, but of course they had in the farm a kitchen. In the kitchen was a long table for my grandparents and 9 children. And at the end of the table there was a fence, and in the fence there was a pig. And what they were doing, if my grandmother was cutting the cauliflower, the leaf from the cauliflower was directly going to the pig. The small leftovers from the food directly going to the pig. And after a half year till a year that pig was fed, and then it was party time in the family because they were eating a half year till a year from the meat from that pig. But after World War II we said in the Netherlands and actually in whole Europe, we don't want to be hungry anymore. What we have to do is to produce as much food as possible for the lowest price as possible. And this is my father on the right side of this picture. He's also 83 years old right now. He also grew up on a very small scale farm with a few land, few cows, few pigs, few chickens. And as it was normal in the 60s, the man took over the farm. And my father has 9 sisters and 1 brother, so together with his brother he took over that farm. With only actually one thing what he had to do, to produce as much food as possible for the lowest price as possible. If that's the thing what you have to do, then it's just an economic law what's saying, okay, then you have to specialize and you have to scale up. That's exactly what they did and what all the farmers were doing in the Netherlands and actually in Europe. So in their case, they did away the land, the cows, the pigs, and they went on with chickens, with laying hens, producing as much eggs as possible for the lowest price as possible. In the 70s, the cages came over from US to Europe and they were fully implemented in Europe, in the Netherlands and also on the farm for my parents. So this picture is the farm for my parents where I grew up. And I know that a lot of people are thinking something now about cages. I am thinking something about cages, but if the only thing what you have to do is to produce healthy eggs for the lowest price as possible, then the cages is a good system. But okay, the cages are forbidden right now in Europe, and then the Netherlands is a front runner. What we did is we went to cage-free system. And as you know, that's just a traditional cage-free system. Every year a system in it. And it's not that I'm against cage-free, but what I see and what I say to all the farmers, what they are doing, be careful because you are still producing as much eggs as possible for the lowest price as possible, but just with another system than my parents had. So, but if you are doing in principle the same, then you can wait that you get the same discussions as my parents had in the 80s and the 90s. Can we earn money with it? Maybe other parts in the world can produce cheaper. Is it animal friendly enough? Is it not too bad for the environment? And. So at one moment I was doubting if this will be the system what we have to work at. I will come back to that later. If I look at the society, and I'm sorry, this is the only picture in Dutch. This is a demonstration in 1948 how people went on the street. We want more meat. Mansholt is our minister. Where is our meat? So these people were hungry and they were saying something from it. But if you look at a demonstration right now, then you see this. Unite for animal justice. Megastalls, we don't want to have them anymore. Something about climate, about environment. It's complete different in only 50 years. What has happened in those 50 years? And if I show this to poultry and pig farmers, then they are maybe saying, yeah, these crazy people, they live in the middle of Amsterdam or in the middle of New York. what do they know about animals? And then I'm always saying, yeah, be careful, because a lot of people in society maybe are saying, not with these people, that they don't know nothing about it, but that a lot of people are asking the question, haven't we gone too far in the demand from these people? That's also possible. And what I see, what we are doing in the agriculture sector, we are producing for the demand from these people, more, cheap. But this is or will be our society in the coming years. So I think we have to close that gap between these two pictures. So at one moment I was thinking, but how can I close this gap? And that was the reason that I went to NGOs. And not that I think that NGOs know everything, but what I saw there is that they have a wide overview for the coming 20, 30 years, how they think that the world could look like. And there's more science behind what they are saying than I had ever thought. So we are collaborating with a lot of them, the Dutch Animal Protection, wakker diers, if I translate it, awake animal in English, a kind of PETA in the Netherlands, ASPCA, Compassion in World Farm, name them, and we are collaborating with them, because I think that's very important that NGOs and poultry farmers or farmers are working together. And this is what I always have to explain. About 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, I had some African people who I showed the poultry sector in the Netherlands. And they showed me how they were producing their eggs, and it was like this. And who am I to think something about this? But if we look with our Western view, then we think, yeah, this is a little bit old-fashioned. This is what we did 100 years ago. So I was explaining them, you have to optimize everything. Make a good climate system, ventilation, laying nest in it, feed system in it, water system in it. Make good feed for these birds, good corn, good grains in it. Optimize everything. And they were looking at me, and then they were saying, yeah, but Ruud, are you crazy? If we have all these good grains and good corn, we will eat it ourselves. Why are you feeding that to all these animals? For example, you have 1 kilogram of grain. You can feed 10 people with it, but you in the Wild West, you feed it to animals, and then with an inefficient way, you can feed 2 till 4 people with it. So what's efficient on your system? And at that moment I was thinking, yeah, if you ask it like that, I don't know. And that's the reason that I ask everybody who wants to hear or not wants to hear, is it ethically justified to feed good food which we can eat as human beings and give that to livestock, knowing that about 1 billion people in the world are hungry? Why should we do that? And all these things what I've told right now, that's the reason why we founded Kipster. And we had actually one question, is there a role for animals in feeding the world in a fair way? So actually what these African people were saying to me, asking at me, is there a role for animals, or is it just nonsense what we are doing with animals? For that, I went to the Wageningen University, Agriculture University in the Netherlands. There was a professor, Imke de Boer, Vera Bavinck was doing her thesis there, and the subject of her thesis was role of animals in feeding the world. So I asked her, what's your research about? And she said, yeah, I can explain. And actually, it's this picture. Maybe it looks complicated, but actually it's quite simple. Use all the arable land as much as possible with help from rain and sun to produce crops or grains for human beings. Bring that to a factory and you have some plant-based food for people. Then you have some marginal land in the world where nothing else is growing than grass. Put a cow, a goat or a sheep on it. Bring these products to that red factory and have some animal-based food for people. And then you have waste product from the land and waste product for human consumption. And then a pig and a chicken can do something fantastic because they can eat it. Bring these products to that red factory, have some other animal-based food for people. So this is a system how it could, or in my opinion, how it should work in whole the world. But this means something if you're going to do like this, because then you can also calculate how many grams of animal-based protein can you eat per person per day for everyone in the world by using these raw materials, the waste products and the land as efficient as possible. And it's about 20 grams of animal-based protein per day for everyone in the world. But now in the Wild West, and also you in the US, you are eating about 80 grams of animal-based products per day. So that means you are here, you go up, you go to the left. That's the reason why everybody is saying if everyone is going to eat like we are doing in the Wild West, we need 3 till 3.5 planets to feed the world, and that's not possible. So this is the role of animals in feeding the world. And this is Vera Bavinck, and she is explaining in a very short video what she is meaning by a circular food system.
Een circulair voedselsysteem is een systeem waar we in de toekomst naartoe willen, om ervoor te zorgen dat we voldoende voedsel kunnen blijven produceren binnen de grenzen van onze planeet. Waarbij we dus bijvoorbeeld zo min mogelijk land willen gebruiken of zo min mogelijk water. Zodat we de aarde niet uitputten, terwijl iedereen wel beschikking heeft tot voldoende voedsel. Ik ben Vera Bavinck en ik onderzoek de rol van het dier in een circulair voedselsysteem. De rol van dieren in een circulair voedselsysteem is dat ze eigenlijk reststromen kunnen eten. Dit bedrijf hier verzamelen ze die reststromen en daar gaan ze uiteindelijk weer veevoer van maken. Ja, dat zijn producten die anders weggegooid zouden worden. Het zijn producten die we niet kunnen of willen eten. Wat we op dit moment ook zien is dat dieren met producten worden gevoerd, zoals granen, die wij ook kunnen eten. En daardoor ontstaat er eigenlijk een beetje een competitie om die granen, of we die nou aan dieren gaan geven of aan de mens. Al die producten komen binnen in de fabriek en een heel proces komt eraan te pas en uiteindelijk hebben we een brokje. Bij Kipster hebben we gekeken, met hun overlegd van nou, wat voor een voer zouden die kippen nou eigenlijk moeten hebben om toch ervoor te zorgen dat ze die eieren nog kunnen leggen. Maar wel een voer wat dus alleen maar bestaat uit restproducten. Want ieder dier heeft natuurlijk zijn eigen unieke eigenschappen. En wat ik wil weten is welk dier we nou het beste kunnen gebruiken om welk restproduct uiteindelijk om te zetten naar bijvoorbeeld melk of vlees of eieren. Die hoeveelheid aan reststromen die we hebben is natuurlijk beperkt, beschikbaar. Dat betekent ook dat er een grens zit aan de hoeveelheid dierlijke producten die we kunnen produceren. En op dit moment zien we, als we dus naar zo'n circulair voedselsysteem toe zouden willen, dat we in Europa de hoeveelheid dierlijk product wat we nu eten tenminste moeten halveren. Ik vind het heel leuk om dat te zien, dat het in de praktijk daadwerkelijk een bedrijf is wat dit oppakt en wat gewoon alleen maar reststromen aan zijn dieren voert. Omdat dat aangeeft dat we dus langzaam echt naar zo'n circulair voedselsysteem toe moeten. Het is niet alleen een theoretisch iets wat nu ontwikkeld is, maar het is ook iets wat nu door de praktijk wordt opgepakt.
So yes, there is a role for animals in feeding the world, but then there are a lot of other things you have to take a look at. And one of the most important things after that is for us, the animal itself. About 8-9 years ago, I followed some workshops about intelligence, emotions and feelings from animals and also from livestock, and I was really shocked. I learned there that we as poultry farmers, and maybe also you as vets, that we don't know so much about our animals. What we know is how we can keep and treat them, that they stay healthy and that they have enough products with not too much feed. But I didn't know that the chicken is already communicating in the egg with the mother. I didn't know that they close friendships. I didn't know that a bird is thinking forward and thinking what he has to do and taking things which happens in the past into account. I didn't know all these things, but now I know, and that makes it more complicated. And that's also the reason that I'm always saying to produce in an animal-friendly way on a commercial basis, that's very complicated. The only thing is what we can do is our utmost best to produce in the best way possible. And we will explain a lot more in this video about that. Vera will explain. So yes, there is a role for animals. We are doing our utmost best to do it in the best way for the animals. And then there are a lot of other things we have to take a look at. For example, how can I make it energy neutral? How can I make it climate neutral? How can I make it open and transparent? What are we going to do with the roosts? What are we going to do with spent hens? And. Time is too short to explain everything, but feel free to have a look at our website and see what we are doing. About 7 years ago, we were on a Dutch television, a program for the youth, a news program for the youth, and our middle daughter, she was at that moment 13 years old, she could explain on Dutch television what Kipster is, and I want to show you that video.
Jul komt regelmatig even kijken bij de kippen van haar vader.
Deze boerderij die denkt ook aan het milieu en aan de kippen en dat doen veel boerderijen niet. Die denken alleen aan, oké, hoe kan ik het goedkoopste eieren verkopen en ja, hoe passen er zoveel mogelijk kippen in.
Alle kippen bij Jules zijn wit en dat is niet per ongeluk.
Want die eten wat minder. En ja, dat bespaart gewoon veel eten. Kippen vinden het ook erg fijn om lekker naar buiten te kunnen. Er zit hier een net overheen. En daar ook. Dat is tegen de roofdieren. Zodat er geen roofdieren bij kunnen als ze buiten zijn. Dus ze hoeven ook niet op te letten of ze nou wel veilig zijn.
De kippen krijgen geen standaard kippenvoer, maar restjes van overgebleven voedsel.
Dit is het voer dat de kippen te eten krijgen. En dit is hoe het eruit zag voordat het fijn gemalen is. Dus het zijn allemaal reststromen van bakkerijen die ze niet meer kunnen gebruiken.
Op deze manier wordt er niks verspild.
Het is nog nergens op de wereld zo als hier. Het is echt helemaal nieuw. Want niemand die denkt aan en de kippen en aan het milieu. Ja, ik vind het heel erg goed van mijn vader dat hij dat wel doet.
So, and what are we doing now with Kipster? We have 5 farms in the Netherlands. We are selling the eggs to Lidl, and we have also 3 farms in the US, and we are selling these eggs to Kroger. What we see, so at this moment, farms in the Netherlands and US, and we are expanding for sure in the Netherlands, but also across Europe, UK, France, we will see. We opened our first farm in the US in 23, so 2 years ago, and we had a very special guest online with that opening, and that is this lady. Maybe you don't know this lady, but I want to show you that video because it's the Dutch Queen.
Today we're celebrating a fantastic new link between the United States of America and the Netherlands. I would like to thank the people of North Manchester and all of Kipster's American partners, certainly also Kroger, for their input and involvement in this project. This is a step closer to a truly sustainable circular agriculture. Did you know that a chicken had to eat 2 kilos of feed in order to produce 1 kilo of eggs? It's such a waste that raw materials fit for human consumption are actually used in that feed. By using byproducts, Kipster has been able to produce the world's first climate-neutral egg. And now it's going to happen in the US too. I'm extremely proud that our countries are cooperating so well in this particular field. The future of our planet is at stake, with all its people and animals and our entire ecosystem. When we talk about sustainable agriculture, this is no time to chicken out. As agricultural nations that lead in innovation, we must keep on creating solutions that will bring about change. Today it's about chickens. Tomorrow it could be cows and pigs. And the day after tomorrow is agriculture as a whole. We can only reach this goal if we keep working together. I would like to thank all the US business partners and scientists who are so committed to this. It is thanks to your leadership and confidence that we can make the sustainable production of food with respect for animals the new norm. Kipster goes America. To everyone working at Kipster in North Manchester, I wish you every success.
So this was about Kipster, and now we are going really into Kipster, and Vera will explain what we are doing for our animals and for animal welfare.
Well, welcome in the Kipster house. I will first show you the nighttime area. This is the nighttime area. And in the nighttime area, as the name suggests, they sleep. And they prefer those highest places as possible. The most dominant hens sleep the most highest perches. During the daytime, less dominant hens sit up there to just rest during the day. Chickens have their own places, so you encounter the same hens in the same areas of the house. We think that, all the chickens are one of a kind. I mean, we've got 24,000 chickens in one house, but every chicken is an individual with its own specific characteristics and needs. So nowadays we are in the afternoon. The hens which are all in this area tend to stay here all the time, 24/7. All the other hens, which are all around, outside, inside, wherever, they have to come in here to drink. This is the area where drinking is supplied, as well as the laying nest boxes. Sorry, I disturbed that one. So what we try to do is, by providing water lines in front of the nest boxes, you actually pull young hens towards this tier, and naturally they will actually go inside to look for a nest to lay their egg. Feed is provided in different layers, so this is one of the feeding lines, and the top one has a feeding line. Those lines, they have a chain, and the chain pulls the feed through the line. We use it about 7 times a day. They are having access to fresh feed. Another thing which is, well, I would say not typical for Kipster, but it's important in Kipster, is those walking ways. Although they are birds, they could fly, and they can jump up and down and fly, you actually want to let them fly as little as possible, because they can also miss land or make a mistake and crash into the system. Chickens have very fragile bones because they produce a lot of eggs. Their calcium is under pressure, and therefore we really try to let them walk instead of fly. I think I mentioned most important aspects of the nighttime area, which is available 24/7. So around 9 a.m. these walls go up, and this is the daytime area. Chicken can go in here to scratch, to take a dust bath, to rest, to entertain themselves, to play. Young chickens especially have a lot of play behavior, and to also find alfalfa hay. As you can see, we also provide water in the indoor garden, and we provide it in a different way. We have bell drinkers. Sorry ladies. Bell drinkers give the chicken the opportunity to drink from an open water source. And naturally a chicken is actually equipped to, with their beak, they have an open connection with their nose to actually scoop water and use gravity to drink. Of course, those drinking nipples, they work, but they are not ideal. Chickens, they prefer open water. And in the indoor garden, they can find several bell drinkers, which are always occupied. They absolutely love them. So besides alfalfa, we also supply straw. And this is the straw bale we have. It's very tight, so they have to work quite a bit to actually get some straw out of it. And if they get some straw, they eat it, or they play with it, or they actually use it in their dust bathing as well. As you can see, we have, I think they're called fake trees. You need a little bit of imagination to think that they are true trees. But the one behind me, we call it the tree. It does provide areas where chickens can get away from each other. As I said earlier, chickens are all individuals, and they are not the same. And some chickens are low in the pecking order and some are more dominant. And the low in pecking order chickens, you have to provide them areas to be in peace, to not be chased at all. So these trees, they provide different heights where chickens, especially chickens which are in the low ranking order, they will actually stay there during the day. These A-frames have the same function, although they are used by any chickens to rest and to preen itself. So then for dust bathing, as you can see, this is a very dry material, and it's containing sawdust and dry manure and some straw. But chickens prefer sand, pure sand, for their dust bathing. It's also better doing the job in removing all the feather dust. Well, we have a rectangular area where we provide sand, although I have to be honest, they mix it very, very rapidly with all the other substrates we have in the house. As you can see, while we're walking, the chickens react a lot to us, and they are very flighty. These are white laying hens, and they are often more flighty than brown laying hens, and that's natural behavior. But having said so, this is particular flock, it's not a very old flock, they're quite young. They have this abnormal behavior, which they started very, very soon after we actually got them in the house, in which they eat the small dawn feathers. If they find these, they will eat them. And if they don't find them, they will find them by each other. So what we have here is actually an unwanted behavior, which is feather eating. And now it starts to be feather pecking, because now they know that they can take out the feathers from each other. And what you see then is that within the whole flock, there is much more unrest. Because of course there is always a chance that you will be having this pack because your sister wants to eat your feathers. And we work hard to stop this feather eating. But it's a very, very difficult task because it's multifactorial, and sunlight, temperature, feed, everything has influence on it. So when you walk through the house, the best thing to do is to make noise. If you walk in a very silent way and suddenly the chickens can hear you, they will all fly in the surrounding, and the chances of them having a crash with the system is large. So therefore we always try to promote people, even if you whistle or if you want to sing, feel free, but make noise. Another form of enrichment we provide are these packing blocks. These are the packing blocks. They started as a rectangular shape, but you can see that they're rounded. Chickens really like them. One thing is that it gives them kind of entertaining, something to pick at. The other thing is that it will blunt their beaks a little bit. We don't trim beaks at all in the whole Netherlands. The trimming of beaks is illegal already for quite a while. And therefore people have found out all sorts of ways that we can try to smooth the beak a little bit so that they are less likely to injure each other. So I've shown you the nighttime area and I've shown you the daytime indoor garden, but chickens also have access to outside. All animals, including chickens, like to go outside. Although most chickens in the world will never go outside, we give them the opportunity during daytime to go outside. So in the wall you can see the potholes through which they can go outside, and at the same time you can see that it's very sunny today. And although chickens like outside, they don't like bright sunlight. By origin they are forest animals, and so they like to be protected from all the predators falling out of the sky. So I'll show you outside. I don't think many chickens will be outside at the moment. Always knock because they're flighty. And as you can see, not many chickens are outside at the moment. So the last few hours for sunset, let's say in the dawn hours of the day, many chickens are outside and it's covered with white little furry animals outside. So not everything goes well. Sometimes chickens are injured or wounded or whatever reason. They need to be separated from the group. We have a sick pen, which is this little part of our nighttime area. So it has water, feed, nesting boxes, just like the rest, but it's confined. So even their dust bathing opportunity is only a small bowl, but it's not intended to spend the rest of your life. So, but how do we distinguish between chickens? They're all the same, but they're not. We actually use these color bands around their feet, and every week is a different color. So this one is lame, besides the fact that she doesn't like me. She actually has a swollen hock, or this color band will tell me that she has been placed in this sick pen this week because it's the week of the black band. Next week will be yellow. So next week I can see that she's already in for 1 week and I can see or follow up her progress. And if she's improving, she can stay until she's well. If they don't improve enough, or we think the prognosis is very poor, we euthanize them. Killing a chicken, I know most of you are vets, so I feel free to talk about how we euthanize as well. Within chickens, we have the opportunity for a very simple, or it's actually an easy method. It's called cervical dislocation. So in fact, you stretch the neck. Although they do die pretty quickly, let's say within 40 seconds, the consciousness is still there for longer than we want. And therefore, we actually stun them first. So this is a stunning machine. So you actually pull it, it's now on tension, and you shoot it. And this bolt is actually penetrating the skull and going into the brain, and they are dead within 0.00 seconds. And then we do cervical dislocation. That's how we actually take care of our sick birds. So because we have 24,000 individuals, some chickens will die. That is unavoidable. But all chickens who die, they have a message. They tell you why they're dead. And they can also be an early warning for a certain disease or something with feed. If we are, for instance, feeding a shortage of a certain amino acids or whatsoever, we can actually see that from our birds. So what all the farmers do, they open every chicken which has a natural death. And then they score for me the top 10 reasons why they died. So we've got peritonitis and salpingitis. That's number 1 and 2, the most common causes for a laying hen to actually die. Well, I can go through all of them, but these are the ones which the farmers can see very easily, and we note them every day. It provides me a gigantic data collection, which helps me a lot by managing the flocks. So here you see all the colored rings. As I said, this week is the black week, and I was lying because next week is white and not yellow. So as Ruud explained earlier, we are feeding upcycled ingredients. And to be honest, we make our own life difficult because upcycled ingredients are often very fine of structure. They're like meal, like flour from a bakery. And you cannot just give a bird a full lot of fine material because they won't eat it very easily. And therefore we have to make pellets. So within these pellets, upcycled ingredients are pushed together with the essential amino acids they need and the vitamins and all other ingredients which are essential for a chicken. And the disadvantage is that for a chicken there is not much choice. And as you probably noted, we like to give the chickens choice. We like to give them choice in light intensity, outside, inside or whatsoever. But with feed, we don't give them a choice, which means that they actually have their feed intake very, very short amount of time. And naturally, chickens, our forest ancestors, they spend about 60% of the day scratching or searching for feed. And these chickens are done within a few minutes. So the way how we actually compensate for this is that every morning the farmer walks with a little cart, which I might show you, and he is dispensing this feed just like this on the floor, which means that chickens can scratch and they still can find our feed. Another way how we compensate for the fine, very fine structure of the feed is that we provide always ad lib alfalfa hay, as well as oyster shell from a certain age, as well as granny grits, which are those little stones which function like a grinding for the stomach, as well as straw. And all these kind of additives are there to give choice to the chicken and to, well, provide them the needs they have by nature. So by feeding all the ingredients we feed, so all the upcycled ingredients, we challenge ourselves. And we challenge, the main challenge is on the gut health of a chicken. So we have a lot of monitoring procedures we go through every week to monitor chickens' health. And one of them is manure scoring. And the manure is scored on the belt every Monday morning, 11:30. And the reason it's so strict is that manure changes during the day, as well as the visual appearance changes depending on when the manure belt has been run. So every Monday morning, 11:30, the same person does the manure scoring. And we score the manure on the consistency, on the amount of water, on the wetness, let's say, on the digestibility. Every week I phone with the nutritionist. We have a nutritionist we work very tightly together with, and I discuss with her, for instance, in this vlog, I discuss with her the feather eating of the birds, which is an abnormal behavior, and it causes lots of troubles if we cannot stop it. And therefore we discuss the adjustments of the feed, and if there needs to be an adjustment, we do so accordingly. So besides the manure, as well as all the post-mortem scorings, which I explained earlier, which gives a lot of data, the farmer is most important. Every day when the feed chain is running, he notices how much feed is going into the chain. He notices how much water has been drunk. And all these data points gives us a lot of information how the chickens are feeling. And if there is any discrepancy, so if they don't eat or they eat more than is normal for them, the farmer let me know. So we have a lot of communication, a lot of detailed planning. I'll put her on the ground. A lot of details, a lot of very, very fine observations which are necessary to actually keep the flock healthy. So after, let's say, about 92 weeks, the chickens, they go to the slaughterhouse. And they have to get into a truck to go to the slaughterhouse. And this is often a very sad moment. And what makes it worse is that a lot of the times chickens are caught on a very, well, damaging, quite irrespectful way. So what we do, we actually catch our chickens one by one upside up. So we only work in the dark hours of the day. So in wintertime, sunset is already at, let's say, 7, so we can start at 8 or 8:30. In summertime, like this flock has been placed in the longest day of the year, so we were catching chickens between 1 and 3 a.m. So we catch them upright like this, and we place them into the crates. The moment we have to catch the chickens so that they can go actually to the slaughterhouse, we do this in a different way than usual. We actually use the upside up method, which means that we don't pull them on their legs and push them into crates, But one by one the chickens are actually lifted by placing both hands around their body and keeping their wings to their body and then place them upside up into the crates. This causes much less stress, it's much more quiet during catching, and it is without injury, and that's our main goal. We don't want to injure the chickens at the end of their life. So as I explained, we have a lot of data within Kipster. And one of the data collections we use is KipUP. It's actually a tool to measure welfare. So it's a tool which is based on the Welfare Quality Network. That's a European initiative which is already, I think 15 years ago, came up with certain protocols how to measure welfare. Although it's scientifically proven, it's not practical, and therefore KipUP is based on this protocol, but it has been kind of changed into a practical tool. So it combines housing as well as enrichment, as well as animal-based measurements, as well as poultry red mite, which is in the Netherlands a very, very common parasite nagging the chickens. If you want to see more, there is the website, but I will briefly show you what we do within Kipster with the KipUP. So these are the 6 chapters we investigate, and each chapter has a lot of individual parameters which we score. For instance, if you look at individual health, I will briefly show you inside the house what I look for each individual chickens. I check 50 chickens for individual health. Having all these data, we are actually able to compare one flock with itself, so to follow the flock during the time. So we can see on which moment in time, for instance, feather cover is an issue, if feather packing is developing. But more, we can compare flocks. And of course, being Kipster having quite a few flocks, it's very interesting to see the differences between flocks. And also to actually, our ultimate goal is to improve the welfare of all the flocks. So these are actual data, and I just wanted to show you this is one flock which we followed over time. So we start with 19 weeks. That's the moment they're just about to produce their first egg. And as you can see, the bigger the hexagram, the better the score. And a very young flock, although enrichment is minimized because they do not go outside as yet, but the rest of the scoring is very high. And over time, you see a change in the shape. And in this flock, for instance, what you can see that the individual scoring is decreasing as well as the feather cover is decreasing. And those findings are very important for us. Individual measure, you see the keel bone fractures, it's an important one. And in this flock, you see poultry red mite had a chance to actually start growing in the house, although it has been tackled at the end of the round. And individual, or the feather scoring, you see that it decreased at the end of the flock. I'm only going to show you one parameter if we compare flocks. There's not enough time to take you through all the parameters, but this is the keel bone fractures over time. So you can see the early we start to measure is 19 weeks, and over time those fractures increase in number. But the interesting part is that there is a difference between, for instance, this flock and this flock. Since I know the observer is me all the time, there is no inter-observal variation. So this is actually to do with the flock itself. And it's a very interesting case, which I will not go into right now, but it definitely provided us answers how to actually tackle this issue. Well, I'll briefly show you how we look at the health from one individual. So first of all, I look at her comb. If there's more than 3 fresh wounds, in this case there is not. I do her body condition score, which is on the keel bone, which is fine in this regard. And then I palpate her keel bone. This is a straight line, no callus formation, no deformities, so she's fine. She's also young, so that's in her advantage. Then I look at her skin, I look at her feet. Are there any ulcers or any other deformities? No, there's none. She has some time outside, I can tell by the color. And I look at her cloaca. The cloaca in this case, hard to see and fine. So no wounds or nothing. And then she can go again.
So this was all about Kipster, and as you can see, we are convinced if we work together, we can change the food system.
I want to say you know where to find us, but we hope to welcome you in Indiana on our farm.
Thank you very much.